So my name is Peter Kuczynski, and that is Jake Halpern, and the two of us co-wrote Dormia.
Dormia is a story about this kid who does all manner of crazy things in his sleep, like ice climbs, skis, hikes.
And Alfonso sleepwalks not only at night, but he sleepwalks during the day.
He doesn't know why he does any of this, and slowly finds out that he is Dormian from this land where this is normal. And all these things that he's been doing in his sleep have actually been preparing him for this journey that he has to make to get to Dormia.
Where do your ideas come from?
Most of fantasy is not dreamed up out of nothing. It's bits of real that are patched together.
We always write at some basic level about what we know.
We like to tell students that writing a book or doing anything creative is not something that is only for a few people. You can do it yourself. So we tell them stories about our lives. We tell them stories of how those stories became part of the book.
I'm going to start here by playing a game. I'm going to take a story, and every single word of the story I'm about to tell you is true, right? Except somewhere in here, buried, is a lie. And when I'm done telling the story, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand real quick and guess what the lie is.
At the very beginning of the book, Alfonso wakes up at the very top of this pine tree. And you all may think, okay, well that's obviously just made up. And it is, except for the fact that that's exactly what I did when I was your age.
Did you always want to be a writer?
I wanted to be a writer starting in 7th grade. And then all through high school and college, I had all of these other ideas that I thought were more practical. And then sometime in my mid-20s, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to be a writer.
What's the hardest part about writing a book?
There are many, many days where you wake up, and even though you're writing what you want to write, you're like, I don't feel like it today, but it's my job, I got to do it.
As a writer, you basically spend a lot of your time in front of a computer screen by yourself.
You don't see people laughing at your lines.
Whereas with these presentations, you really do get instant feedback. You can see what the students really enjoy.
And if the kids are like, well, that's cool, and how did that thing work, and what does that monster look like, you know you've got good stuff.
And you can teach them all about the writing process.
What advice do you have for kids who want to be writers?
So I remember when I was about your age, I wrote something, and it came back with all this red ink on it, you know? And I was like real down about it, and someone told me, I think it was my father actually, he said, no, you're looking at this all wrong. He said, the red ink means someone actually cares enough about you and what you're doing that they've given you the love to make it better. It was only years later that I realized how true that was.
If you have something now that really interests you, you should never give up that interest, because that's exactly the way it happened for Jake and I. We could have just continued on and said, you know what? It is way too difficult to write a book together, and it is way too difficult for us to imagine that this book is actually going to be published.
What I hope is that kids will come away and be like, you know what, like I never thought I could do that, but I realized that it's just about being observant about life, that anyone could write a fantasy book as long as they are astute observers of the true things around us.
And as his fingertips touch the glassy surface of that sphere, you know what happens? The rest of the story